knew that based on the way Wish Upon a Black Star turned out, the visuals, the music were cleaner. And I knew that End of an Empire for me, I wanted to be more aggressive. I wanted to be louder, dirtier, nastier.
Creating an album independently and kind of scope that Klayton is known for is definitely an undertaking.
The anticipation of the new album, having people sense that something big was about to happen, that they didn't know what was happening.
Before anything, before I even wrote a lick of music for End of an Empire, I had already known there were going to be 4 albums, four chapters, and each chapter was representative of an empire.
You don't even really have to question. If Clay is alive and breathing, then he's going to be making music.
I wanted to start with what is End of an Empire. There should be a song, End of an Empire, that encapsulates the vibe of the whole record.
There was a lot of hype and a lot of excitement because this is the new thing. This is the new Celldweller album.
The other major factor that's differentiating End of an Empire from many of the albums I've done in the past, this is the first time in a long time that I'm doing this album completely alone.
You going to mug me?
Am I going to mug you?
Is that gorgeous or what, eh?
And I believe I can run a decent marathon.
Thank you very much.
Download Veely now.
From my earliest childhood memory, music is the thing that I reacted to the most, more than probably even TV shows and things. Music definitely had a big part in my life. My grandfather had a big part in that because he would play music for me all the time, all kinds of music. He would take me into his room with records as tall as the ceiling, surrounding 3 out of the 4 walls. So there was so much music there, and I would get in headphones and listen. So music just kind of resounded in me as a child, and as I grew up, I got into the drums, started playing, and that was the first real taste of me actually being able to make music versus just listen to it. And I didn't really think I was capable of doing it, but once I had realized that I had some ability to make music, that drive, if it existed, now went into full effect. In a lot of ways, I look at it, it's almost like a puzzle, like solving problems. Why do people want to build computers or fix software issues or build bridges? I mean, because there's issues, you come across issues, and it's kind of, I think it's built into our human DNA. We're built to have purpose and to solve problems, to improve, and that's pretty much what I find in music, is that I have a purpose. I solve problems, which are musical ones, and they're always different. And then every time I solve a problem and I'm finished with that problem and I give it out to the world so that they can listen to the problem I've created or solved, then that leaves a bigger problem in my head, which is how do I do something better than what I just did?
It's the end of an empire.
I have a ritual almost every morning, and part of that is my Tumblr feed, and my Tumblr feed is filled with basically concept art, science fiction based ideas, fashion. So I'm pretty much daily feeding my brain visuals. So in that sense, yes, I was looking at visuals while I was creating the music for End of an Empire, but I was more concerned about creating this empire that I wanted to create, and I was kind of imagining what that would be. I knew that based on the way Wish Upon a Black Star turned out, the visuals, the music were cleaner, and I knew that End of an Empire for me, based on the fact that I had already done that, with Wish Upon a Black Star, I had something cleaner, which is something I wanted to do, that now my mind was heading in a dirtier direction. I wanted to be more aggressive, I wanted to be louder, dirtier, nastier. So I started with guitars, of course, like I always did, you know, like that's my root. My roots were writing riffs. I wanted to start with what is End of an Empire. There should be a song, End of an Empire, that encapsulates the vibe of the whole record. Because I wanted to say within one song that an empire relates to a big galactic universal thing all the way down to a single life.
Wish Upon a Black Star took 6 years from beginning to end. It was a long process. It was very important to us to make sure that didn't happen again.
Now, what a lot of fans may not have realized as to why some of that took so long was there was a whole metamorphosis going on in the formation of FiXT, the building of a company and a team and infrastructure, as well as Clay building his studio. And so instead of relying on other producers, engineers, mixers, which he had always historically still needed, and other studios, by the time he finished Wish Upon a Black Star, he had finished his studio.
It was weird, and it was both very unnatural and natural for me to just jump into making this album completely alone. By myself. I mean, like, I don't have an engineer, I don't have really many people that I bounce any ideas off of. So this is the first time I'm kind of just going back to the way I made the debut Celldweller album, and a lot of music even before that. My Circle of Dust albums, pretty much, I would just show up to someone's studio with the album written, ready to go, and just track it, and then that was it, it was done. There was really no outside influence in any of those albums. And maybe that's why they were a little schizophrenic, but musically, I had probably the best time of my life as far as the creative process. So I'm kind of going back to that. Now I've got a bunch more toys. I've got a whole modular and analog synth collection where I process not just synthesizer sounds, but a lot of my organic sounds through hardware. Much more into hardware on this album than I have been probably on any album that I've ever made. I could get a sound pretty quickly with a soft synth that I know how to use, but with hardware, and especially the hardware I'm using, it relies on me to patch some things together to make a sound. And a lot of times I could know what I'm going for, and by the time I get done, it doesn't sound anything like I was going for, but it might end up sounding a lot cooler, or I end up with something just unexpected. So it really does take the sound design into a completely different realm.
Do you remember the first time you started making that track? What date or what month? Maybe even year?
Year would have been 2013. Probably the impetus of maybe the guitar riff, something in there. That would have happened sometime in a really rough demo form, sometime probably at the end of 2013, if I had to guess. You know, I don't remember where I started, how I ended up, where I ended up. I just remember getting new modules for my modular rig and being excited, and then doing sound design, or getting an idea sonically in my head that I wanted to explore, and then figure out with hardware. Like, it's a great night at the end of the night when everybody pretty much leaves the studio, all the other studios are empty, all the other employees are gone, and I have a totally empty place that I can work. And man, I dim the lights super low in my room, and I just get into a vibe, and I just patch up some synths, and I just record, and I record, and I record. Well, we're standing in the room, the editing bay, and for the next 25 minutes we're going to watch the promo teaser for the new album, the new Celldweller album, End of an Empire. It's only actually 30 seconds long, but we're going to watch it. What's the math? How many minutes did I say?
This is the wrong group for that. Programmer.
Did I say 15 minutes? Say that programmer. How much?
She said 30 minutes?
Yeah, 30.
60 times?
60 times. We're going to watch the 60
If I have a jar full of matchsticks and throw it on the ground in front of you, can you tell me how many are in there?
Yes.
Ah, 62!
Every time.
Instantly.
Yes.
So James must be slammed right now because he keeps pushing, saying I still need more time. So soon here I'm going to meet with him, finalize merch, and I think we just kind of make it live and then let people cry and complain about how it's not dubstep or whatever they're going to say. I'm disappointed. Right. There's always disappointment. That's okay, kids, because you'll never be as disappointed as I am.
Launch night was chaotic, to say the least. The whole day was kind of a big scramble. It was really important to us to make sure it went off without a hitch.
As with any release, down to the wire,
Last minute.
there was a couple snags, so...
I heard of the poster snag. I was...
Okay, so I mean, thank goodness that I had Michelle double check stuff, because better that we change it before we launch than get launched. Realize there's lots of issues.
Absolutely.
And then we can...
Promo video is up. It's uploaded. It's ready to go.
All right, man.
So why don't we rock on, get that thumbnail done, if you want me to check it out. Let's get that done. Keywording, whatever needs to be done. So literally, he gets the products ready. We look over them once. Thumbs up. Live at the store. Live on YouTube. Live on Facebook. Wherever else it needs to go.
Okay, I'll have it.
And we're live.
I'll have it set to go. I'll come get you in like 10 minutes, and we'll figure it out.
Okay, sounds good.
Woo!
Kind of freaky. The only way I've ever actually gained any fans is by doing what I wanted to do for myself. And fortunately, there were people that were like, "Oh, we like what you're hearing. This is cool."
Refresh. Done. I'm already seeing it.
So I can't be nervous. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I can fail. Been there, done that. Daily.
We remind him, we go into a studio.
Look who I hired. I'm full of fail.
Yep.
Oh.
I walk in and
That's so mean.
I just smile at him, and then he tells me to get out. I remind him of his failures just by showing up to work every morning.
And then I fire you, and then you laugh and go back to work.
Yep. Because that's the thing. They can't fire you if you keep coming back. Are we good? James, can I hit this button?
Yeah, hit it. Do it. Is it the video live?
It's going to be in a second.
The video's live. Woo! Light show!
Musical output, that's my, like, I just want to stay on focus. So I go into End of an Empire as a concept thinking the main tracks are the most important things. Because even if I were to release the main tracks without the factions, I don't think everybody would be upset, because I could always release more factions later if I wanted to. But I want to do the factions. It's more that I'm driving myself to do that because I want to help tell a story. Chapter 2 is Love. So Love was the second batch of songs that I was going to work on.
It's a little more lighthearted. It's still very Celldweller, but it's very different from Celldweller that people expect.
And the concept of love, I'm like, how am I going to approach love? Like, I'm not the guy to write love songs per se. So I had gotten a Schwayman MMF2, which is a Eurorack module, and all it is a filter. It's a dual filter, stereo or dual mono. And the thing sounded amazing. So there was a few days after I had gotten it, I was just striping out tons of just synths and filtering them and doing all kinds of weird things. So I had this one segment that I had recorded, and it was almost like this techno kind of like, there was melodic information in there, but they were jumping all over the place and the filter was changing. And I had striped out 22 minutes of this with a beat. And what I would do is on drives, I would just listen to a lot of the stuff I made on modulars, just to kind of, because A, I love the way it sounded. B, it would try to get me to remember how I even made that sound. Like, what did I even do to get this? Which keeps me thinking about how to patch and come up with new ideas. And C, because I look for musical snippets in there that I go, oh, that could be useful for something. And so I went in and brought all 22 minutes of that audio in and figured I was gonna cut up this whole track out of this 22 minutes of, because there's so many different types of filtering and vibes in there. When all was said and done, I ended up with a 4-bar pattern that repeated a couple of times in the song, and that's it. And the other 21 minutes and 53 seconds, you know, is probably just still sitting on a hard drive in my studio.
We weren't really 100% sure what to expect when we released Hard On. Clay had the idea to do it and immediately pulled Jimmy, who is the manager of FiXT, and myself into the room and said,
this is my idea. Before I even waste a second doing anything, what do you think? And they both laughed so hard, I think they started to cry at the idea.
We loved it. Like, we both thought it was awesome. Right then and there. We both were like, ooh, I don't know how people are gonna react to this, but f it, let's do it.
And then Down to Earth was, you know, another exciting thing for me because, again, I'm having fun making this album because I'm in a room by myself and I can kind of do anything I want, which I always could, but there's less pressure from anybody else saying, okay, we got to get this done or that done. I'm kind of going, what do I want to do? But I had taken my live bass and I had run it into the modular system, into my modular rig, and I ran it into the Shipman filter. I had the Shipman automating so that the filter states, band pass, high pass, low pass, and lots of combinations of those were turning on and off in all different varying rhythms. And so I created all this crazy sound design that didn't even sound like a live bass when it was done. And so I had archived a bunch of that, knowing I was building a song, I wasn't sure what it was going to be for. And I was like, let me pull that thing up, and sure enough, that became Down to Earth.
My role in the teaser video was blood manager. I managed where the blood was going and how it arrived on set. Got my hands a little bloody and painted the wall.
We look up and see that your own life is inert. Sidetracked by your self-important babble building schemes. But broken wings won't let you fly above all your broken dreams. It's time for someone to bring you down to earth.
The story and the artwork for End of an Empire has taken a few twists and turns. We explored a few different artists and designers, you know, we were hoping could take the concepts and the themes and carry them out into a visual style and a storyline that would work. So we had a few rocky starts. So there was, again, with starting this much earlier than fans were aware of. You know, we started working on this a year out from the release, and you know, we are fortunate to work with a designer that can really articulate, you know, with her art, the vision that he has.
Influence around the making of this album were the visuals that I was seeing in my head for this empire that was being built. Ninja Joe, my artist, who is doing all of the concept art and the art for the packaging, I would convey ideas to her and she would be sending me art. So while I'm writing music, I'm getting concept art back, building this world that I'm actually also building musically. It's just an excuse for you to say something. I'm just trying to get you to say something. Yeah, I didn't think it was gonna work. Figured I'd try. So it's officially 2015. It's day 2, according to the calendar. So we have 363 days to go, and we are we're going to go over Chapter 3 art for End of an Empire, Ninja Joe, live from Ukraine, Donetsk, and we have other things to go over too because there's a bunch of artwork. What generally happens is she keeps sending me updates. And so my inbox fills up so much that I can't even launch the application anymore. So when I finally get it open, I have to go through all the emails and catch up with her. And she's on the other end in Ukraine, waiting extremely impatiently for me to do something. So it's pretty much the story of everybody in the company is they generally chase me around until I deal with what I need to deal with. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to get you some notes. And hopefully they're not terrible. Without me even conceptualizing the idea of an emperor, she had just, in her spare time, sketched this version of me, which was the emperor, this metallic, encased, armored, red mohawked thing. And it was a totally different, well, I don't want to say totally different, but it was a very different form than what we ended up in. But again, I'm an editor, so I saw that idea and was like, wow, that's a really cool idea, because I didn't really want to take photos of my face and put them and just smash them in the... I wanted this to be more concept related and less about me and more about characters.
You know, 30 different variations of the art as it started from very rough, you know, pencil sketches to forming into the characters and then coming back and forth till they got designed in and then coloring. So there was a whole process, and you know, Klayton definitely has a vision for what works and what doesn't.
I mean, I feel like when I first saw this, probably, 9 months ago, I already was like, okay, this is a cool idea. And I'm not really sure what I would necessarily change. We're not trying to put a full bird, like the dream catcher, kind of like that kind of vector looking thing, obviously isn't part of this, so. I say it's good. Is that you breathing a sigh of relief? That I'm not saying, oh, we have to start from scratch, do it all over again? So I was in conjunction with the music building the visual world. So they were kind of built hand in hand, and some of the storyline from the lyrics got infused into the visuals. And sometimes some of the visuals gave me ideas that could influence lyrical direction or story direction. Okay, so we need a planet, right? Some kind of circular thing like this. He's holding one in his hands. How do we relate the one that's in his hands to this one here? I mean, is it literally like a big picture of the planet with his hand? Like almost like a macro of his hand, and this planet is actually... You're seeing that it's a planet, but you see his fingers? Yes! You're getting excited. Look at that. Every once in a while I have a good idea. That gets you excited. That works out great. Okay, good. I'll start by saying like how I was flattered in one instance. My friend Joey Sturgis, who was a producer, was over one day. I had played him that opening sequence from Time before it was ever out. So I just said, here's a preview of how I'm opening the album, and he's like, "What? Am I listening to is this a video game? Am I listening to a video game?" And I was like, "Yes." Because right there, without a single visual component, the audio itself was telling somebody a story. I didn't really give him any backstory, he was just listening. So, factions as a concept are new to my main albums, although really I look at Black Star, my Black Star score, as almost the seedling idea of what birthed factions.
Yeah, this is a new concept for creating original instrumental pieces with the album. But if you really look at what Clay's been doing for the last 5 years, he's really kind of combining, in my mind, and I don't even know if he would consciously say that this is what he's doing, but it's really kind of a combination of his artist album and his soundtrack for the Voices in My Head series, which are typically very similarly instrumental cues intended for film TV, and we're kind of bringing those worlds together.
When I started thinking about End of an Empire and this idea that I wanted to do more than just the 2 main songs, but I wanted to do variations on those songs, specifically like musically, like the factions relate in some way, shape, or form musically to their counterparts on the same chapter. I knew that I wanted to kind of do that, but I was like, how do I do this? And I started thinking about the idea of a faction. When you have an empire, there are factions that break off that maybe disagree with the main structure of the government or whatever. So I just decided to call them factions because they were offshoots of the main ideas.
Look at this wasteland where humanity once lived and loved.
Your models have been programmed with an approximation of human love. Mine were not. Therefore, I do not understand.
That is unfortunate.
My main drive in continuing on the pace that I was on with End of an Empire, although I didn't say it externally, internally, my team at FiXT, every week we're doing meetings, I was like, every 3 months, I'm releasing a chapter, hell or high water, because I want to complete an album within a year. What always pushed me forward, including for chapter 3 specifically, was I wanted to keep that pace of going, okay, I've got 12 weeks to finish these songs in addition to all the other things I've got going on, so I need to step it up. I started making quicker decisions. There were a lot of things that slowed me down. Patching analog gear that doesn't behave very well, which is part of the allure of it. You know, it takes a lot longer than pulling up a preset patch or something, which I've never really done. And so I would go stripe out an hour of me tinkering with modular synths and start going through and cutting out all the bits I wanted. So I would just start going, the first thing that I hear that's inspiring me, I'm dragging it in and start building something.
Chapter 3 was the most yin and yang that we had throughout the album cycle. The earlier albums, you know, they had songs that were a little bit different, but nothing like the dichotomy that was Just Like You versus Good Luck, You're Fucked.
Clay and I had been exchanging either some emails or some phone calls, and he was just kind of exploring what he wanted to write about next, and we were having kind of a deep retrospective conversation about his career and the songs he's written, and something that we had touched on in one of these exchanges sparked him calling back to sometime in the 90s, driving out on this long pier, and he remembered the moon just like reflecting off the water.
I didn't go to the beach. This wasn't daytime, it was always nighttime, and I didn't actually go walk on the water. This was an actual pier out at the end of Long Island, and I would drive down this expressway that was 2 lanes on each side, and I was surrounded by water. So I would go down there. Oftentimes there would be no traffic, and I always felt isolated. I could put music on and I could think and just stare out at the ocean. But it was the end of the line. It was like the end of that actual physical line that I would go out to. And there were a lot of like creative moments there. There were a lot of dark moments, but there were a lot of hopeful moments as well, and very relevant and very poignant to me in my life. So I kind of infused that whole vibe. I got back into that role and wrote lyrics from that perspective of where I was at the time, and then equated it to everyone else. Like, I feel just like you.
Just like you.
Sometimes songs take weeks and months of working and rewriting, and then sometimes songs just come together really quickly. And I feel like Just Like You, he just had that inspiration and it came together pretty quickly.
But knowing that based on other things I have seen over years of people telling me how they feel about how my music makes them feel, gets them through a tough time, that I knew that there were people that would be able to relate to this. It's like a Black Sabbath song. Slow it down. So glyph, as I often call it, because it allows me to say it in public without being offensive to everyone, which is Good Luck, You're Fucked. But that track was inspired by a movie script that my friend Grant Moorman and I are working on, we were working on. We scrapped the idea, and now we are working on, in fact, we're working on a few.
And so, like, you know, it was written in mind with this, you know, like, punk band playing these, like, you know, heavy riffs and just going all out, and you pan back and there's, like, two people in the bar wearing leather jackets and drinking beers and not listening to the music. You know, that was originally what that song was created for, and so it felt like that.
It was one of those Saturdays I didn't have a specific thing to do. I always have work to do, but this was not scheduled. It wasn't like, okay, you're working on this today. So I had an open day and I was like, I picked up my beloved Epiphone, my white Epiphone guitar that my brother gave me, which I use all the time, and I knew I wanted this to be more tuned, like a standard tuning as opposed to just a detuned heavy thing. I wanted to feel more punk rock. And in one day, I wrote Glyph.
There's plenty of times where he'll play an in-progress thing, like, this could be done, man. You could be finished with this. And then like a month later, it's like, yeah, so I finished that song.
I don't know what that game is.
I've never played 7-Up. I've drank 7-Up.
No, with prescription strength industrial, I don't shit my pants.
Not as often as I used to.
I do, I just don't care about it as much.
As far as I'm concerned, this song sounds like shit, like all my other ones, but I wanted to play it just to make sure that I was right. I hate it. The further back you are on the bass here, it's going to sound. So the closer you are on the front, the better.
The care that's put into that is like, that's the stuff that made me resonate with Circle of Dust, is that's what makes me resonate with Celldweller and what makes other people resonate with Celldweller, because it's not just some kid sitting there with like loops, dragging them in, going like, here you go, whatever, good enough, there, it's a song. It's like it's very deliberately constructed and made to be something more than just a flash in the pan, like, oh, here's a song that'll be popular for, you know, a year. It's like, no, it's made to stick around. I knew it.
You knew what?
I knew it.
You knew I couldn't just not extend it?
Here's the fun thing. He writes this thing really quick and makes this awesome, like really super raw demo recording of it, gives it to me and says like, I think I may even just, like, I like the rawness of this. I may just leave it like this and leave it like all super raw and everything. Like, yeah, you might.
Them sight, so why can they not see beyond the boundaries of their own mortality? I hold an individual world for each of them in my hand. It will give them hope. It will give them purpose. Life. Without it, these frail creatures will wither and die.
This album also had the introduction of a brand new character, one who I really dig just because he's got this really interesting, mysterious space floating around, leather jacket clad, kind of dark, dirty, dingy style to him, and that's the Dreamcatcher.
Dreamcatcher, which was the character for chapter 3, which was dreams. The chapter was dreams. Dreams are a very important thing to me, and I say that in the sense of ambitions, desires, not laying down and going to sleep and then waking up going, wow, I can't believe that happened. I should never eat pizza before I go to bed. Not those kinds of dreams. These dreams are your desires, the thing that is in the core of your heart. What moves you? What motivates you as a human being? When you wake up in the morning, what are you excited to do? So this character, in my eyes, was basically the guy who held dreams in his hand, like your dream, each individual person's dream. And basically, give yourself to me, I am life, was what came to my mind when I was like, give yourself to your dreams, like allow yourself to follow your dreams, you'll have life. I feel for people that I speak to that tell me they hate their jobs and they have very little to look forward to, because I was in that very same position and I was at a crossroads in life and I could go this way or that way. And I knew this way would be safer and more secure and I could get a day job. I was studying to be a doctor. And I realized pretty quickly I don't really like people enough to want to be a doctor. And I didn't really want to be a doctor in general. I mean, I really wanted to make music, but I knew there was no way I could do that. How does anybody make money in music? But the right path was this way, which was pursue music, knowing I'm going to starve, very, very, very high probability of failure, but this is what I'm going to live for, and that's what I did. And I did starve, and I did fail a lot. But what I didn't do was quit when I failed.
Right from the artwork with the skull and the songs with Precious One and New Elysium, I felt like there was something special that, even more so than I think the other 3 chapters, I thought this chapter might connect more so with the fan base.
It was the least surprising chapter for everybody because by that point everyone had caught on that Klayton had said time, love, dreams, death in End of an Empire, you know, the very first track. You know, it's what we've been building to since that very first slow pan from the very first video that says this is the end. I mean, it's death.
Give yourself to me. I am death.
I didn't have a specific style for Chapter 4, per se. In fact, I didn't really have a specific style for all of End of an Empire. It was one of these things where I was just like, jump in, start producing. I knew the overall aesthetic was going to be darker, grittier, heavier. Ironically, I started going back and listening to some of the old psytrance stuff I used to really love and remembering how cool the sound design was, and back when I was listening to it, kind of going, how did they make that sound? This is so cool. So what I decided to do is basically start the idea for what became New Elysium. And I just threw up a kick drum at 145 and pounded away, and I started just dialing in some modular synths. I just started making bass sounds and kind of growly, choppy kind of rhythms and things that I would listen for in, say, a psytrance track, knowing that this wasn't going to be just a straight psytrance track, as Celldweller really never is just one specific thing. It was one of the tracks that I knew sonically, going into the modular world, how to get what I wanted to get. I mean, I didn't know exactly what was going to come out, but I knew how to start patching. There's times where you just experiment with modular synths and you don't really know what's going to happen. Or you go in thinking, I'm going to get this, and you end up with something totally different. This was, I know enough about what I'm doing that I could kind of patch something together and get kind of what I was looking for this track. So I was pretty happy by the time the track was over, and I was like, okay, cool, I did this without just pulling up presets on a soft synth or anything else. Like, I spent some time just dialing this all in with hardware. I wanted to approach death maybe not the way that Celldweller would have 10 years ago, or I would have even earlier on in my career, where it's this dark, oppressive, scary thing, and you know, it's really cool to sing about it. You know, skulls and death, and you know, there you go, Chapter 4, it's a big skull, but it's kind of a cyber skull, so it's just cool. I wanted to approach death from the perspective of who I was calling the gatekeeper, which is this female character. And I had already started on concept art with Ninja Joe, and I wanted her to draw this character. I believe I started with the idea of it just being a dude, and I think she might have been the one that said, what about her being a female? And I'm like, why would I ever think it should be a dude? It should be a female. I didn't want death to represent what people assume that it does represent, which is something final and something dark and evil. The character who represents death, who is the gatekeeper, who we will see on set today, is actually a benevolent creature, and she's more kind of saying, it's okay, come with me, I'll take you from here to the next life, that kind of thing. I've finally realized that I don't have enough room in my garage to house the props and the cast and crew that we needed, so we came to the soundstage because there's way more room, there's a great crew here, and we're gonna have all of the necessary technology and equipment to make this thing way cooler than it could have been if I had tried to do it myself.
So we decided to shoot all practical, which we'd planned for well in advance. We had started construction on the doors, we had all these really big ideas, and we locked down everything that we needed. We got crew, we locked down a location. We had a lot of really awesome people that came out on set. Grant, who's working on The Dunes, which is a film Clay's scoring right now, came out. Rick Veers, the Detroit Chop Shop, came out, and he had his interns and his crew helping us. MPI, the Motion Picture Institute in Michigan, was kind enough to lend us their facilities. Typical Celldweller thing, where down to the last minute everything is, we're dialing everything in, but in typical Celldweller fashion, it all comes together and it all works out.
Starting, I would say about like right here. Just like kind of
coming in kind of slowly.
Yes, coming in kind of slowly, and as the doors are opening, and we'll give you the cue on that, so that's when you can raise your hand, almost like because you're gonna say this line.
Like you're reaching out to someone.
Right, because you're gonna say, "Give yourself to me, I am death."
Yeah, right now we're waiting on the doors. There was an issue with the truck rental company to get the doors here, so we're a solid hour and a half behind schedule, which is all good. It's given us a chance to kind of stop and reflect about what we're shooting, getting some better ideas, and then just basically getting the set prepped and ready so that when the doors get here, we can fly them in and start shooting.
I'm hoping that the doors are going to look a lot bigger than they actually are, but it was great to have my artist Ninja Joe draw a concept that I had in my head for what Death's Door looks like, and then to go to Nick Goodwin, who's a great props maker, makeup artist, etc., and have him make these physical doors and bring them to life. I'm really excited to actually see, this is the first time throughout the course of End of an Empire that I'm really seeing a physical structure being built around the concept art. In here and let's see it and then
A little bit.
Okay.
Just, hold on.
All right, guys, can I get some hands to get the doors in?
Look, he gets excited about it.
Good? Keep it going. Well, you hit Alex.
Have you seen the doors yet? I have not seen the doors.
All right, let's get the...
Never.
Here we go.
Not in person, only a few photos.
Nick, how's it going, man?
Feel like a kid on Christmas?
A little bit. That's it. Awesome.
Woo!
Stonehenge. So I do have to get on my knees. Then is what you're saying. Oh my God, it's massive.
We'll use like a little an action figure.
This is an extension for the top if we need extra.
Okay.
Great.
Look
so
at
we have
that.
some extra
Look
height.
at that. Done.
That's good because we do need that.
Oh my
God. Look how
God.
easy it is to break them.
Yeah.
Super careful.
Look at that. Wow. Dude, that's Death Star right there, man.
Wow, Nick, that's amazing. Dude, that looks sick.
I mean, I could have did a little bit better, but this is still really good.
Okay.
Just watch the skull at the top.
Yep.
Careful. Right here.
I'm extremely relieved, yeah. I'm just glad Nick is here. That was the first part, is him getting through U-Haul's line of defense and actually being able to get here. Yeah.
Let me see these. Oh man, that looks good. Yeah, we got our death right here. We're gonna need somebody else to be Klayton for the shoot, but I think that this works.
Do I look FiXT?
That's the thing about Klayton, he's always horny.
Cut. Great.
You see Mad Max in that scene where they're like squirting like fuel into their mouth and then they're spitting it into the cylinders of their engine. That's how everybody was on that shoot that day. Like we burnt out our engines across the board trying to get that shoot to come together.
Get ready.
A little more, a little more. What's that one? We didn't have that before. What's that one?
Is there something bouncing?
Okay.
I don't see it. All right. On action.
A little more.
Oh! All right, cut.
I'm really proud of it. I think that we did a really cool job of making something really awesome and bringing something to life that we had never really brought to life in that way.
So there's this, this deep personal satisfaction of getting to be, one of the first, if not sometimes the first person to hear new material. I don't get that experience that a fan gets now of getting like a whole collected release, and sometimes I miss that.
I think I was reading posts on my Facebook wall and there were people who were letting me know how much the lyrics mean to them and how it's affected them in a positive way or got them through a tough time. That's like, people like my music, cool, but like people that are actually encouraged to change or somehow affected positively through what I'm doing, that's the biggest compliment that I can get, and that's the thing that matters the most to me, to be honest.
I remember the first time he sent me the demo to the title track, End of an Empire. I know it was in winter, it was very cold. I was outside on my back porch.
We were on our way to lunch to discuss merchandising plans and to discuss release plans for End of an Empire. And he showed me what he had been working on, so he played the track in the car.
And in little earbuds and listened for the first time and fell in love with the concept of theme of an empire and what does an empire mean.
And it just became real, It just became real in my head that, holy crap, there's a new Celldweller album coming, and it's awesome.